you might ask me, I don't know what's going to happen with this book, but I did it,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One thing I've discovered is being a journalist is people identify so much with the stories of others,
Mhm.
and they trust the
Mhm.
stories of others. And I think that just having the experience that you all, the personal experience you have, makes you all so much more credible in the eyes of the people you serve.
Yeah, totally.
Because they're like, all right, they've walked the walk, they talk the talk, they know.
Mhm.
You know when they're bullshitting you. You
Yeah.
know when they're sincere in their efforts, and there's got to be some respect to that. You know that they have for you all.
Oh, sure, yeah, and it's just another whole world to be able to talk to someone that's shot heroin, specifically for me, for moms, that have gone through what I've gone through and like what I do now as a mother. There's nothing like peer to peer. It saved my life, so I don't know.
So yeah, I mean, I think a book is it's perfect, and who knows, it just be the starting point for you.
Oh yeah, we talked. I was on a Zoom. Ryan Hampton. I don't know if you knew. I did Unsettled. Anyway, I did a Zoom last night, and that's what they're like. What's next and all that. And I'm just like, a movie. Drew Barrymore playing me. Hello.
I can totally
That
see
is.
that.
I want to be on her show. I've already written to them, but they get a million. And on Instagram, I've messaged her, but they get a million a day. But I'm gonna keep trying. We'll
Yeah.
see. Cause she's sober now. I don't think she's like in recovery, but she stopped drinking alcohol.
How did you decide that
Oh,
you
are we recording?
yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'm just chatting
Me
away.
too, me too.
Oh no, go
I
ahead.
always do that. Um, when did you decide that you wanted to put pen to paper and you wanted to put your story down for others to read?
Sure. So about 3 years ago ish, I really started thinking about it, and I kind of focused on social media in a positive light. So I kind of switched more to Instagram and started following some amazing writers and specifically women. And then I don't know, I just saw people writing books and writing books. I was like, well, if they write a book, I could write a book. And I just really wanted just to You'll read in the book, I was kind of going through this, I call it kind of an unspiritual awakening a few years ago. I've been in the same job forever, the monotony of home life, mother, what a woman's supposed to be, all of that. And I was like, you know what, I want to do something different. But I didn't know what that was. And I didn't want to necessarily leave my job or leave my husband or, leave my life, just get up and leave. I just wanted to do something different or add to it or pay for a wedding one day, maybe this will be a financial income. So I wanted to do it, and then I thought about it and I did an outline for about a year, and I talked about it but for about another year. And COVID went through the COVID and everything, and finally one day after talking to my husband about it like 100,000 times, he's like, you need to write the book. So I started typing it. I actually started on the Notes app on my iPhone. I started typing. A friend of mine's an author, and she said, just start speaking, which I didn't do that. I just started typing chapters on my phone, and I was like, what am I doing? This is bizarre. Like, this is so tiny. And then I just started, on my computer.
Right. And then did you find it was easy to recall the things that were important?
So it was definitely traumatic writing the book. There was a lot of stuff that's in the book that I thought I had already worked through my recovery process, which I worked through it, but it was still stuff that I was, I guess, holding on to from my childhood and teenage years because I started using it at 12. So it was a lot of trauma that happened, throughout my life. But it was also a beautiful experience. I cried a lot. I got angry some. It was a lot of different emotions, to be honest, writing your story because I share about it in the recovery community and in my field, but really writing some deeper stuff from childhood and early addiction and then some stuff in my marriage and with children and all of that. It was very, very emotional for sure.
Right. You said, and I remember you writing this before. I don't know if it was on a Facebook post or where I saw it, but you said you dealt with a lot of guilt,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you became a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that this is something I have to forgive myself for.
Sure. Yeah, that was the crying. A lot of like, because the stuff that I went through was hard and traumatic, but the stuff that I put my daughter through is another whole level, another whole world. Because I used drugs my whole pregnancy with her, and she was born in withdrawal from heroin. So that really kept me from getting into recovery. I didn't come to McShin until she was 5. And I tried a couple different things throughout those 5 years, but I couldn't be the mom that she deserved because of my addiction. And yes, it took me a really long time throughout my recovery to really forgive myself for the things that I did to her for no choice of her own. But I'm past that for sure. I've grown as a woman and as a wife and a mother through all of that too. And she's now 20, and she's 20. I know, no, don't record that. But yeah, she's 20. Her and my husband were the first two to read the book when it was completed before the world could read it. Because I really wanted to be in an authentic place, but I wanted them both to be comfortable for what I was writing and putting out to the world. And she looked at me and she's like, well, it was interesting. It was really funny how she said it and everything, but she's like, do it, you know. And my husband, we've been through a lot. We met in treatment 16 years ago, so before I even found McShin, and we used together for a year after that. And then we've been through a couple other things that you'll read about as well as a married couple in recovery, but really it's a married couple in general that we've had to overcome together too. So I wanted to make sure he was comfortable putting his story out there as well. And he's like, we're in a totally different place, so send or print or whatever. So
Yeah, you have to, and, sorry. Um, and take me back to your story. You said you were 12 when you started using, and was it hard drugs right away, or was it just?
My first drug was weed. I smoked weed just to really honestly fit in. The friends that I was hanging out with were smoking weed. So I was like, all right. It took me a minute. I would hang out with them and hang out with them, but it took me a little while to really start smoking it and then drinking LSD and shrooms for a few years till I was about 15. And it was pretty regularly. I was going to concerts. I was doing a lot of things that normal 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds don't normally do. My son is 12. Like, I couldn't imagine him, taking bong hits right now or smoking, a joint or whatever. So that started, and then when I was 15, I started hanging out with kind of different people and started smoking crack and doing cocaine. And then 17 is when I found heroin. And then after I fell in love with heroin, I remember the first day I used it, I used all opiates and heroin for the rest of my 9 more years.
9 years, and you survived that.
I survived that, yes, ma'am.
And in this day and age, we're not seeing
Nope.
survival rates like that.
Mm-mm.
I guess the way they're cutting heroin today. And
Right. Let's tell people too, like in this field, like right now, it's so much fentanyl out there, and it's like people are literally dying, and they think they're using heroin or they're going to a different area in town and using it, and it's got fentanyl in it. So like back then, all those years ago, I didn't even know what fentanyl was. Like that was unheard of for users like me. We were just going to get heroin so wouldn't be dope sick, and it was overdoses. I overdosed when I was 17 and got brought back to life with Narcan. I was like this close of not being brought back because of the situation that I was in that's in the book. But now, man, it's a lot. It's a lot. Over the CDC, the data is over 100,000 people overdosed this past year. So, I mean, it's different. The drugs are different. There's a lot more drugs now, too, than just good old-fashioned smoking weed and drinking and just the heroin is completely different now. And there's so many pills now. It's just changed in so many traumatic ways too. But yes, I'm a survivor and I am a hope dealer, so I try to help people the best I can with just telling my story and keeping it real, the authenticity of life in general, not just because I'm in recovery.
right. And you said you and her husband, you met, used together, and to go through this journey together too. What are the odds that two people were going to come completely clean out of recovery and
sure. It's like the 1% in society. And when I share to our participants as well, like my story, or, it's hard. Relationships are really the number one reason a lot of people have a reoccurrence of use, because there's so many emotions and feelings once you take the drugs away that you want to fill. You want to fill that void, and it's normally with a relationship. And I just share my story. It wasn't pretty. That was the worst year of my whole 14 years of using, was that year, because I went away to a recovery program in Winchester. It was a 28-day program. I met him. I left the father of my daughter over a payphone, and I walked outside and saw my husband and fell in lust immediately. I don't say love, I say lust. And then we've been together about 16 years. We've been married, 11 years. But in the book as well, there's been a lot of things. He's had a reoccurrence of use. He's got 9 years now, though. Christmas Day, we love Christmas. I am obsessed with Christmas personally. But so we've had some things happen, throughout these years as well. But look, if this is the human that you're going to be with for the rest of your life, like, it's work. People used to tell me, because I was a baby when we got married, like, people used to tell me this is going to be work. And I didn't really, I didn't know really what a marriage was supposed to look like, and that's in the book as well. So I didn't really know what that work meant. I just thought, like, a woman's the wife, the male's the husband, and this is what you do. You have children, and I've broken a lot of glass ceilings in that department, I think, in my marriage, in our life, but we're doing it together, and it is work. It is really work, and we want to live the best life that we can. So if you're with that other person, it's your partner for life. Like, I want to grow with them. You gotta, like, really work through the bad stuff too, not just, oh, life is great, and it's really working through that and not holding on to resentments, and, like, figuring out what that even is in your relationship. So we go to therapy. There's a bunch of stuff in the book on just tips that I've done that have made our relationship amazing.
Now that you've shared your story, and it was selling, bestseller on Amazon.
Yes, yeah, in a few categories. It sold out on Amazon. Yeah, it's back on sale, I think, now on Amazon.
Did you
but.
imagine that would be
No, girl, no. I was talking about the other day, like, I lived in McShin, so, like, my recovery journey it's just been a beautiful experience. It's been hard. It's been a lot of trauma too, and a lot of things have happened, but I didn't know what I was doing writing this, but I just knew. I got an editor, and she was willing to make, KWE Publishing, she was willing to let me make payments instead of giving a big chunk of money, which is, I just believe that God put all these people in my life to, like, really write the book. It was so many signs, and I'm a believer in signs and spirit and all of that, and it was so many signs, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then, yeah, it was 2/22/22 was the release date, and that was just cool in itself, and just got all these reviews, and just, yeah, #1 new release bestseller in drug dependency recovery, and, like, all kinds of different, but I got the screenshots of all of it, so technically I'm a bestseller, yeah. And then in the Canada as well, so, like, international too, so that was cool. Yeah.
People really wanting to clean. I see this a lot.
Yeah.
Face to face, and I'm imagining now that you're probably hearing more of this, like, from people from afar, that they need something to believe in.
Yeah, I've done some Zooms and some podcasts and stuff, and the people that are messaging me, and, like, just gives them hope. Like, and a lot of it is family members of a loved one that is addicted right now. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot are reaching out, specifically their daughters, like, reaching out, asking me some questions, trying to get help too, and I obviously refer them to McShin, but really of, like, it's a lot we put our families through when we're addicted. Like, it is heavy, heavy stuff what we do to the ones that we love, because it's just the easiest, to hurt and harm and steal from, or whatever the case may be, to hurt their heart, to worry them, all of that. So it's been a lot of, like, moms specifically that have reached out about their daughters, and just how can we, I'm just trying to do the best I can with answering everything and giving them the best advice that I can because I don't have all the answers. The book doesn't have all the answers, but it has realistic answers that hopefully, people that don't struggle with addiction either, just women in general and a lot of men have contacted me and it's like this, I resonate like 1000% with this book. So it's like life tips too, not just all about, addiction and recovery too.
What do you want people to know, about your life that the one, I guess if you could call a theme to your life?
Oh, wow. Pink. No. So pink for sure. Pink is just beautiful.
Why pink?
Well, so the title "Scattered Pink" too is the noun version of pink. I didn't know this until I picked the title. Is coming together in your best form. So I feel like I know I can grow and get change and evolve throughout my life. But I'm 41 years old. Life is way too short. I feel like right now, I am in my best form as a human, as a mom, as a wife, as a CEO, whatever. I really do. So I think really the takeaway is to try to live the best life that you can with whatever that you have that surrounds you. And if it doesn't satisfy you or you're not happy and it doesn't make you, I want to say like more of like a spiritual human, then you need to change it up, and do something different because y'all see our world is not that much of a beautiful place in a lot of different areas. There's so much beauty to it as well. And it's like, this is my life. Like, this is the only life that I get. So it's really important for me to live it the best that I can. And whatever that looks like for me. And a big part is exercise and running and doing that too. So.
Do you see people sort of light up when they find out you're a survivor and your story and how in depth your story is? Do you ever see a glimmer of hope?
Oh, yeah.
People?
Totally. So people don't, sometimes when you're like a female CEO too, like people don't understand like really like what that means. And then once I share my story with people, they're just like, either they clutch their purse or they're like, wow, because it's just, and I'm nothing special than anyone else that works here or in recovery. It's just, as a woman, I've had to break down a lot of barriers in many different things. And the addiction, obviously, is a huge one. But yes, I do believe that we're hope dealers. 1000%, because again, people are passing away and family members need answers and the humans that are addicted need answers. So, recovery and I can say McShen was the answer for me, and 12-step helped me out tremendously in the beginning, but peer-to-peer authentic recovery organizations, yeah.
Right, and that's what I was going to ask you, what do you think it's going to take to pull us out of this cycle? I mean, addiction's always going to be an issue, but what to get us out of the depths of despair that we're currently in, especially with addiction, what is it going to take to pull people out of it?
So money for certain, and money, but not just to go to addiction, but really the families. So the family unit, so like the moms and the dads that have children that are in foster care, or there's so many grandparents raising their grandchildren right now. So really funding like for that next generation as well, because a lot of addiction we see is generation after generation. So like I'm hoping, the teaching I call myself a real model, not role model, because they see so much about addiction and recovery. But just being like, we don't really sugarcoat much in my home. There's a ton of different things that, a lot of our kids' friends, parents do differently than we do. It just is what it is. But I think the biggest part of it is having more peer-delivered recovery support services. I mean, I'm never gonna change that answer because I know it works. I know what we do here and funding for that. But also my next, I guess, wish for this locality is a sober living women and children's housing turned into program. We're still missing that here, for sure.
And so many programs that are needed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's do some giveaways real quick. Anything, honestly, that I didn't ask you that you wanted to include?
No, just live the best life that you can. I think all of us have to learn as humans a little bit about ourselves on a day-to-day basis. So, I think recovery rocks. And no, I thank you for taking the time for doing this for sure.
Do you ever think, especially when you see all the funerals that you do, that that could have been my life?
Oh gosh, yes. I am grateful for the life that I have on a day-to-day basis. And even like little things like someone cutting me off, in the car. My first like, what? But the second is like the reality. You gotta like live the best life and that's not for me, that's not like a huge house or like anything like financial. It's more of like looking at myself in the mirror and really loving the human that I've become. So I just think like everyone should be a little kinder to themselves, but and then that will obviously trickle down to other people that they're surrounded with. Yeah. And a lot of that's in the book too, like being a woman, like how much we also beat ourselves up and the time like it takes out of the stuff that we can be doing productive of like I don't look good in that or why that just so much stuff is like you gotta just let that go and get it moving.
Right.
I mean, just get it
Gratitude.
moving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much to be said about gratitude. I think gratitude probably helped me the most is focusing. All right, what can we focus on? And my little girl right now, we've been Jeff and I've been separated for since she was 2, and so
Okay.
she's never known any different. But all of a sudden, she's in first grade, and she's starting to realize that, um, you know, everyone else has 2 parents at home,
Right.
and everyone else doesn't have to go from house to house. And
Yeah.
it's real. And I actually called someone this morning who's a play therapist to ask her, what I could do differently. And she said it's just, it's normal. She says as long as you make it, focus on the good things, the fact that she just has so many people that love her. And I told her, I said, and how many first graders do you know have the 2 properties?
I know. 2 houses, 2 play
You have your
spaces.
summer house.
I
And
know.
I said, and I try to focus on that with her with the gratitude. But it's very difficult because I think that it's such an important theme in life, and so many people lack just appreciation for what they have, and you especially see it in our country right now.
Yeah.
You go off to a third world country like I just came from, and you see the way a lot of people live in these shanties with like dirt floors,
Right.
and no education,
Yeah.
and food on the table is what you catch in the sea that day, and we take so much for granted here.
Totally. 100. And I tell my kids all the time, like, especially growing up, having a teenage daughter, it's like, look, we I ain't paying $100 for a pair of jeans. It's just not happening up in this house, right? So we can go to Marshall's and get $20 with the same brand on it or some type of, it's just like I always, my whole line forever, because I mean, I make pretty decent money now, but it took me a long time, but it was like, I'm healing families, saving lives is all I could tell my kids, if they want, I mean, they have everything they need. So our son, we have a whole contract with him right now because he's going through those attitude adjustments, 12 to 13 age. So we have a little contract with him. And yeah, so it's like, I think I tell everyone all the time, like shooting heroin, being on drugs, like all that, those years was hard in so many ways, but being these 2 humans parent is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. The hardest, did I make the right decision? Did I not? And just like so many different things. Oh my gosh, did I just say that in front of us? You
It's
know?
hard. I'm going to a funeral Saturday of my best friend in high school, her mom, who I loved. She just died of pancreatic cancer, and she was only like 67, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, she's still pretty young, and I just was like, it's just it's hard because we're at that stage now where we're starting to lose our parents, and hearing about other. I have no one that's got grandparents around still.
Yeah, I don't have any grandma. He was my last grandparent. I mean, I have a step grandma, but I don't have a really relationship with her. So he was my only blood grandpa. So yeah,
It's a circle of life, but
it's just weird. I don't know. I mean, I guess also I'm like so numb to a lot. Kids are 20, and just never coming back. So.
you probably have a very different
Oh my
perspective.
gosh, it is a lot of pathways of recovery and all. It's all in the book too, but It's just life's just way too short to, we talk about our feelings. I didn't do that growing up. Like we do so many different things. My husband and I making a, effort to raise our children different than both of us were raised. And it's not we're no perfect parents, trust and believe, but we're pretty good ones. I mean, I think we are. Our kids
Your
are.
parents addicts too?
I can't really speak on, if they were actually addicts. My mom had some issues that I discuss a little bit in the book. But we were just not raised, me and my sisters, the way that I'm raised right now at all. So you'll read some of it in the book. I don't go into too much just to respect them. But it was definitely.
You still have a relationship with them?
Oh yeah. I have a stepmom that I adore. My daddy is still great relationship, and my mom. Yeah, so I have three parents, and then in-laws, and all of that comes with it too. So yeah, and I don't know if Adam and my husband, he's in long term. Like I don't know if we're gonna stop our children from not using. It's not up to me. It's up to me for them to understand what addiction is, though, and what death is, and what jail is, and all of that. And they've been raised here at McShin, so
Right,
they get it.
Yeah.
My daughter specifically more than my son.
Right, sure.
She understands it a lot more.